Hi, y'all. I'm Ariel Jade.
And I'm Renee.
And we are
Shootin' the Shit.
This is already episode 6.
Hard to
which
believe.
it is. It is so hard to believe. We've been doing about one a month, so we've been doing this for 6 months now, and it's just kind of wild how time just flies, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly months fly by.
It really is. And we've gotten to, both of us have gotten to do some really cool things lately, and there's a bunch of really interesting venues popping up and collaborations happening. And before we really get into that, I just kind of want to talk about some real shit. Normally, we come in here a little goofy, but I just kind of want to set the tone because we got some real shit going on in the music industry, in our society, in our world, right?
Yeah.
We're probably all each individually going through some real shit too. So
Yeah, I think the whole entertainment industry is going
through it.
We'll
yeah,
get to that.
yeah. Which, if you are an aspiring artist, producer, songwriter, musician, this is all very relevant to you, and I'm sure y'all are probably very well aware of a lot of these issues. But anyway, so let's dive right in. In terms of some real shit it's hard to hear. It's not very palpable, and people don't really like to talk about it. Is you don't see as many, or hear, per se, as many women on the radio as you do men. And being here in Nashville, seeing all of these women artists and women songwriters, and then still going and looking and seeing those statistics, a huge difference. There's this song that we got to work on, and we'll talk about that. Yeah. But there's a line that says, what's with today's country music radio where they still don't play 2 women in a row.
And it's not just today.
No, it's not.
In 1982, we were having that same conversation.
And it hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't changed with all the game-changing women. What's up with that?
Crazy. And that's just some real shit. But that also shows that women with your voices that are musicians and singers, start being louder about it. Get yourself out there. And when I say get yourself out there, don't stop posting your stuff. Don't stop getting your booking agent to call and get you that headliner slot instead of an opening slot. In
the day, the reason was because this was pre-internet, and streaming music, and we were buying vinyl, right? And cassettes, and then CDs. But women purchased most of the music, and that's why they catered to men. Because women gravitated towards male artists. And they were the ones buying records
the
off
vinyl,
the shelf.
the actual physical merch.
And that's the reason. I'm just wondering if that's still the same reason with streaming. If women are streaming men demographically more than women.
Maybe so.
I wonder if that's still what they base it on.
Well, okay, so then this is some real shit. Let's mix it with some cool shit, because I'm going to reference Devin and her story that she was talking about. We got to do something really cool. There is a women in country music documentary that is being made, and it's shesang.org if you guys want to check it out. That you can keep up with the production and the release date and everything there. But we got to go in to Parlor Studio here on Music Row yesterday, which is Robin Ruddy's studio now. Yeah. And
love Robin.
She's so sweet.
She's amazing.
And we got to track this song called She Sang. And one of the women that we were recording with, her name's Devin, and she used to be
Devin O'Day has been a Nashville staple forever, major DJ, and then she's done everything in the industry. She sings, she writes, it's endless.
Super talented, great
Love Devin.
vocalist.
Everyone in Nashville loves Devin.
I adore her. That was my first time meeting her, and I adore her.
Yeah.
But her story of when she was a DJ, she played, she did the whole 2 women back to back. She walked out of the booth, and they basically told her, you don't have a job anymore.
Right.
That is wild.
Exactly.
To me.
Because she was fighting for women. And
women's rights and
lost
equality.
her gig because she was fighting for women.
Just crazy. It's crazy. And then to see that we still, you women don't get as much radio play. It's like, okay, this has to be talked about so that people are aware of it, because, we're talking about it, and our friend Wood Newton and a bunch of other men in the room, they're hearing these stories and our side of, yeah, this is my experience, and they're like, wait, what? Like, it blows their minds, and it's like, people don't realize it.
Something I'm real curious about, and you may have the numbers on this, but again, in my day, because I've been in the music industry 42 years.
You've seen a lot of it firsthand.
All we had was radio.
Mm-hmm.
All we had was radio, so it was a big deal. Today, statistically, how many people listen to the radio? I mean, maybe when you're in your car. Do people really want to listen to the ads, the commercials?
I have no idea.
But are people streaming playlists more? I'm curious to know.
I think streaming services.
And then you have satellite.
Yeah,
Sirius.
You have a lot of options. And the thing is, I feel like,
how relevant is radio today?
Oof. We could deep dive into that some other time.
We need to do the
I forgot to set the timer.
It's okay, because
we're deep into this conversation.
I think we should let it go, because
I am.
To cover.
Just going with the flow.
Let's not get distracted.
Shooting the
Let's
shit.
just roll.
Okay, so I didn't set the timer today, and our ADHD selves tend to squirrel. It's it's a good rabbit hole, though, so we'll have to return.
And we're not alone.
To this later.
We're not alone, and we know
that. I know that we're not, because there's so many artists that are trying to navigate this new landscape, and it's here's something funny. I was talking to a musician, a very prominent musician from the 90s, and I said, how'd you make money in music now? And he goes, go back to the 90s. I was like, damn.
90s was a great decade for country music.
And it's like, so this is something that we do have to kind of consider as artists, producers. If you're an A&R, like the internet, the streaming, how much of that is taken away from radio. And then, where do women fall in that, especially? There's just some food for thought for you guys, though.
We were mentioning the documentary.
Yes.
Thanks to Wood Newton, who's the reason that I was interviewed for it. And then yesterday was a beautiful coming together of women in the industry, magical. All ages, and doing this theme song that Wood wrote with Robin and
Donna Nichols, who is the
song she sang, and it's the theme song for the documentary she sang, which we said is shesang.org. And it's about women in country music and the journey for women in country music and how tough it's been. What I loved about yesterday is when women come together, we get it done.
I had chills.
It was a beautiful experience.
I just had chills, like, basically the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to actually see that many women in a space just fully uplifting each other and getting it done that's definitely one of my top recording experiences. I was thrilled to see old
friends like Jonelle Mosser.
I was about to say, you grew up with some of these women.
What's funny, Deborah Allen was there, of course, and in 1982, again, when I started in the industry, I did my first showcase at the #1 bar in Nashville. It was the Bullpen, the Stockyard Bullpen, and everyone hung out there. But at that time was when she broke onto the scene with Baby I Lied, and I covered that in my first showcase.
That's
I was
cute.
going to share that story with her yesterday, but I had to dart out of there.
Well, we'll have to send her this episode.
Yep, absolutely.
And if any of you lovely ladies are happening to listen or watch this episode, we absolutely adored you, if you can't tell. So.
Oh, I wanted to do special mention Karen Waldrop.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes, so good. I
Wood
love her.
Played her stuff for me when I first met him a couple of years ago for the documentary, a year, whenever it was that we did the interview. And I fell in love with her vocally before I ever saw her face.
Phenomenal.
And then she was on The Voice, and I was pulling for her because she is such a pro. I was so thrilled that she was in that yesterday. And
so much fun. Ray of sunshine.
Anyway,
and
we'll move on from the documentary.
Radio may not discuss women like this, but
that's right.
Damn it, we will. So check these women out. If we say them on here, we uplift them, it's because they are worth your time.
We love empowered women, and we love
empowering women. That's not rehearsed. We're just shooting the shit.
We're always
in sync. All right, so let's go ahead and move on a little bit, though, because I'm not doing the timer. We're winging it today.
Yes.
Hot shit. I got to go to the Ryman Auditorium. And I've been there for a few times.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Beatles fan.
The Mother Church.
Oh, yes. I'm a massive Beatles fan.
Yeah.
I've never gotten to see a Beatle.
Oh, me too.
This is one of our common loves that.
And I got to meet a Beatle, and I'll share that later. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, a Ringo Starr just put on in the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, Ringo and Friends at the Ryman, and it actually probably. I have no idea on a time frame, but I assume after this episode airs, within a reasonable amount of time, you guys are going to be able to go watch their CBS special on it.
Yes.
It was amazing to see, like, these, and he didn't just come out and do his own thing, right? Like, yeah, he did his own thing, but he brought out greats such as Emmylou Harris, Sheryl Crow. Talk about uplifting women and using your spotlight.
Absolutely.
I love Ringo even more now, but
generationally,
you had the old guard.
As long as the Beatles have been around, it included people from every decade. This benefit
and genre and background, and that's what it's about, though. Like
Ringo's cool,
coming together.
I mean, you know, I'm sorry,
like
he's such a cool, laid back guy.
I love Ringo.
He's the one
very
I got
much.
to meet.
Oh, that's so cool.
He came when I was touring with Faith Hill. She did a grand opening of a casino, and he was playing at one down the street, but he had the night off. So I'm coming up there, and we do the opener, and I do a song or two, and I look out into the audience. Dead center on the second row, there's Ringo. I'm like,
wait a minute.
Does this guy look like Ringo? You can't mistake Ringo.
Uh-huh.
But then he was backstage. I was just like, oh, my God. Oh, my God. It was so surreal to see a Beatle be a fan in the audience of the artist I'm touring with.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So he was backstage and everything, and I've never been one to take pictures and get autographs and things like that.
But Ringo.
But that
the Beatles,
night,
like, you know.
But that night, I did this at the Grammys when Faith won her first Grammy. I took some pictures because I got to meet all my heroes.
It's just, yeah.
And I decided that night, they'll never remember.
But you will.
And we'll never forget.
Oh.
They'll never remember me gurming them for a photo.
We should write that.
They'll never remember
but
me
you'll never
bugging
forget
them for a photo op. And I'll never forget.
Uh-huh.
Let's write it.
You know what? That's actually so true, though. And because this experience is on the other side, I'm not going to put the name in it. I'll keep it to myself. I digress again. But this does speak to how you want to be as an artist and as a person in this industry, and just in general, staying humble, being genuine. Mm-hmm. I had backstage, opportunity at the Opry, and I went and again, they'll never remember that you asked, but it's a
defining moment. Capture
the fan will remember if they couldn't take the time to actually do it when they did have time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
I was always worried that I wouldn't be able to keep a touring gig if I did that all the time. But Marty Stewart, everybody I know that's a celebrity, they do.
I was about to say, I got to meet quite a handful of quite amazing people that night, and most of them were very, very warm and like
real.
But one was not. And that was actually the second, not
so
the best, best
so
interaction. And I will never forget that.
Like that.
I will never forget that.
I met an iconic hero.
They tell you don't meet your heroes. Sometimes it's right.
Yes, and I am no longer a fan. And I'm sorry.
Exactly. You
I
have
hate
to.
It when that happens.
I do too.
We all do.
I do too. But that's words of the wise. Aspiring artists, musicians, producers, like.
Sometimes it would have been better had I never met her.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wish I'd never met her.
They say never meet your heroes, and there are those cases.
I don't kiss and tell, but I'll tell you.
No. Okay. Later. Tea.
But
okay.
Heartbreaking. But
so,
anyway.
Ringo, the show was amazing. Bringing in, we talked about Billy Strings before, and Molly Tuttle being, a younger generation coming up in the forefront, bringing bluegrass into mainstream.
Yes.
And Ringo had them on as well.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
He's
to see
so cool like that.
Yeah, and to see the old guard and the new guard, they're just...
If you look up cool in the dictionary, Ringo's
Ringo?
picture
Yep.
is right beside it. He's just peace and love and cool. Yeah. He's just so laid back.
But I love to meet him one day.
Exes.
I would ask for a picture. I would.
I know a couple of his exes. Well, we do. But go ahead.
Anyway, so, but yeah, he, on top of putting on an amazing show, really, you know, engaging with the peers that he brought up and just having a good, you could feel the good vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they got up and they finished the set with Yellow Submarine and I get by with a little help from my friends, you know, and it was just so magical. It's like,
the Beatles were the soundtrack to my life.
I think they still are, you know.
They are.
But so here, timeless. I walk out of this beautiful, amazing experience, and you're talking about he's all so cool and peace and love. And I never really buy merch at things because I lose them. I never use them, right? But I saw this because I walk out, and Ringo has this huge, everything he was doing.
That's probably what I would have bought. Yeah.
Was for charity, though.
Yes.
Everything that he sold out of his merch booth that night was for a charity benefit.
Necklaces like that with a medallion.
And he actually signed the merch before the show. So it was like day of signed stuff. Yeah. Yes. And he took the time and the effort to do that, and it was just amazing.
I'm so glad you got to be there because you'll never forget that.
Yep. Shout to my friend and bandmate in some cases, John Salloway, for taking me. That was amazing. But, yeah. So, well, that was my hot shit. You got...
But let's talk about the real shit, the reason he was there.
Okay.
Fire Aid.
Yep.
All the celebrities are coming together, and, like, Billie Eilish and Lady Gaga and a whole host of celebrities are coming together for Fire Aid for California, because we have so many industry friends who've lost everything. And not all of them are A-list, iconic, filthy rich. So you have all different income brackets that have lost it all, and some people are going to have a hard time. And also, a lot of insurance companies dropped the coverage.
I saw that. That's wild.
So we're raising money for California because this is unbelievable what's happened.
It's great to see musicians and artists in the space come together and make something happen that actually, you know, helps support the community.
The power of music. The power of music to bring people together to heal after something that traumatic.
Yeah.
I mean, California, we love you.
Yeah, and we've still got, you know, I mean, it hadn't been that long since we had all of the hurricanes come through and just obliterate the East Coast and stuff.
California's never seen anything like this. Of course, they have earthquakes, and they do have fires, but it's not usually a city.
But we're just seeing, my point of that, all I was saying is that we're having, like, disaster after disaster, natural disasters, social disasters, all of this stuff going on, and it's like, where can you find some calm in the storm? And I feel like music is it. It really is. And seeing
it's the greatest healer.
Musicians come together to help heal, to heal each other, to heal themselves.
That seeing
sense
the heart
of community,
of humanity,
family, what it should be, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, we see the entertainers doing their jobs, and then we get to know their hearts, and when it gets real.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
That is true. Well, Renee, we got Eddie Gore coming in, but you have to go do a gig.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
This is what happens when we're...
I have sessions. I've been working so much, man. It's been yesterday. I mean,
gigs.
It's constant.
That's what I was about to say. Session, a recording session, film session, this job, that job, performance here, performance there.
And you know what? I've known so many touring vocalists, being a background touring vocalist for so long, who could do both, who could balance out touring and sessions. And I never could do that because of my ADHD and everything I deal with.
It's a lot, too. That's a lot of singing
the stress
as well.
Of the schedule, but it's hard enough when you're not touring and you're in town and you're getting call after call, and it's a 10, 2, and 6.
Yeah.
The way we book sessions. And
I'm telling you, I literally pulled at least a 14-hour day yesterday, and I know you probably did too.
Yeah,
so.
and I want to be here so bad, but I love Eddie, and
I'm going to ask him some questions for you. I'm going to deep dive into why he got into music for you.
And he's another Nashville native.
Yep.
And
y'all are like unicorns.
He is so great at helping artists develop and at branding,
arrangement,
helping finding the right songs.
He's got a great ear.
He is such a pro, so great.
Good.
And what's really great is the vibe he brings. The energy. He's so positive. He's always smiling. He's just a beautiful human being.
He's a fun dude to work with and to be around for sure.
Yeah, he's always bringing it.
Well, let's get you out of here. I love you very much, Renee.
I love you.
I will knock this interview out of the park for us, and you'll be back next month.
Eddie,
for our
I love
next
you.
guest.
I'm sorry I have to go to a gig, and I know you understand.
Yes.
I'm late for a very important date.
Oh, no. Well, Eddie, I'm so happy to have you here today. Renee had a gig and couldn't be here with us for this interview, but I had to get you in while we could get you in to shoot the shit, because I personally think you're really cool. We got to see your really cool studio, and I just wanted to share some of your knowledge, expertise, and neat things with our Shootin' the Shit Show audience. So welcome.
Absolutely.
Welcome in.
Thank you.
So Eddie Gore, everyone, if you guys don't know who he is, you've been you're a musician, but currently and for the past 20-something years you've been producing here in Nashville?
Lord have mercy. I'm going to give away my age, but it's been, I think, officially like 33.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got a little bit of experience under your belt at this point.
I started when I was 7. No, it's just
Look, well, actually, you know what? Let's go back, because I love hearing this. Where is your musical background? Like, what sparked your interest when you were younger in music?
My daddy was out of Houston. Went to play pro ball, and we wound up moving to Nashville, Tennessee, because out of the military, he was hired by IBM. We moved up from New Orleans. He's from Houston. Met my mom in New Orleans, and we moved from there when I was very young up to Nashville. We're Catholic. He joined Knights of Columbus men's league, and they had a softball team. Well, my dad was the guy that could hit the ball into the river. And back in the day, Nashville, Tennessee, the RCA, CBS, Dot Records, they all had softball teams. They're promo guys. So they wanted my daddy on the team, so they would pack the back of our Fiat with all these cut out vinyl. And I grew up listening to all this vinyl. And we had a little piano in the house, and I just played, like, copying all this stuff. And then being Catholic, I started taking piano lessons. I was reading all classical, because that's, I learned to read. And all through that in Nashville, wound up going to Belmont University to study orchestration arranging, Protestant school. I got there, I was like, they stole all the music. Where's all this? Gospel choir, church. I'm like, what is going on? The dance company. And I'm like, this is insanely cool. And so my next thing was like learning about all this band and this cool music. And that's kind of where it really began. It's just I've been in the music my whole life. That's all I've ever done. I've told my kids I got them doing other things because Daddy only does one thing. So
there you go. I've gotten to visit Belmont a few times, and it's such a pretty campus too. And I've had a lot of friends that went there, and they said just the energy on that campus, because everybody is so just like musically charged, that it's going there has been a very big motivator for a lot of my friends. They
love what they do over there.
Yeah.
And you can see it,
that's
and
awesome.
They love to share. And I think that's a huge thing about what you do, I like to try to do.
I know you do
giving
it.
Back
yeah, you do
and
it.
Share, right? And that's what they do over there. And I was very, very lucky to have a few mentors over there.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So you finished up at Belmont, and did you like immediately go into trying to open your own studio? Or?
I started in a band when I was like 18 years old. And that was a big learning experience because I had a nice keyboard, and the band just lost. They traveled 9 or 10 states, just a cover band, and they asked me to play because I had the gear. Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is, this is a great story. I mean, I was like, you know, I was terrible. But they needed me because I had the gear.
Somewhere.
And I'll never forget, a few weeks into the band, we were playing huge like stuff like for fraternity houses, sororities, all that. And I was just having fun doing the deal.
Jamming.
Well, this is how you learn. One day they came to me and they gave me a cassette tape, and they had a board mix of me turned up. And I was like, oh. Okay, but like, I fixed it.
They're like, hey, listen to this.
You have to be humble in this business and stay humble. And that's the only way you're going to learn.
Honestly, quick tip. That's a great tip. And another quick tip for any aspiring performers, musicians, producers, go back and review your work. After you've given yourself like a little bit of space to breathe away from it, like go back and try to look at it as objectively as possible and see where you can improve. Because if you just do it and you're like, yeah, that's good enough, and you move on, you never really will grow. You got to learn from your mistakes. And you have to be willing to, when someone brings you a mixtape with your very interesting renditions of songs turned up, and they say, all right, look, here, fix this. You go, okay, yes, I shall work on that.
Our level of professionalism really is, if you're playing for somebody they've asked you, it's like total respect back to them that you busted your ass, okay? Yeah. That's what you really need to understand. It's not about you.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You know, I also love, so I have, I call him my brother. He's basically my brother, Lucas White, who will be doing some bonus episodes for us here on Shootin' the Shit Show. So, but he and I grew up playing bluegrass music together, and we're on stage, and I hadn't played bluegrass in a while, started to get back into it. And he looked at me and went from about 110 BPM to about 170 BPM. And that was his way of being like, you know, you're not practicing enough, you keep up. And I love it, people, other musicians, other professionals kind of like calling you on it in a way, because it does motivate you if you don't take it the wrong way.
Right.
And if it's done in you know, good faith, goodwill, not trying to embarrass or whatever.
You know,
professionalism
it's
once
tough
again.
Love.
Tough love, exactly. And you got to be open to that to grow. Yeah, for sure. So you did the band thing.
Yeah, so that's how I got like folks, even because I'm local in Nashville, even my friends that are big time attorneys and all in real estate, they're like, Eddie Gore, he can play that piano. That's all they know, or he could put your stereo together. That's what it's so funny, but because it's so interesting how Nashville music is such a separate thing than the like Nashville business. They never come together. Mm-hmm. So I'm one of the few that are like get into the business. A few I've met, I'm like, how'd you get in? It's such a closed little community. It feels like, although we're very, very open. But, where I was, I see this is good. This is what a blonde-headed guy happens. I'm like, wait, we were talking about something.
Oh, this is me all the time, and we talk about it being ADHD on here, and I'm super ADHD. I will go down a bunch of different squirrel paths and rabbit holes, and we'll eventually work our way back around.
I know what I was saying. Yeah, because you asked about the cropper thing. So I was playing in a band and all, and so basically that's how I was getting my chops out. And one of the folks that I was that would sing in my band, big Nashville socialite, younger guy at the time, you know, invited my brother was in town into a party. I don't know, I was 20 years old or something, and John had a band playing downstairs, and my brother and I were walking downstairs, and here comes Steve Cropper walking up the stairs, and of course he's like a behind the scenes genius, but my brother and I knew exactly who he was, so we sat there and gurmed the hell out of him, and him up these little tiny stairs, and got to know him. And a good friend of his he was starting a publishing company with, as he was starting to move to Nashville, Juan Contreras, caught me upstairs, and he knew that I was a musician, and he said, Eddie, we've got a publishing company we're putting together with the Shenandoah guys, and I got a tape machine over there. We know you do all the computer stuff. You want to come over? I was like, yes. And that's where it all really started.
Awesome.
Me figuring out, just producing in a sense.
That's cool. Yeah.
Right? That was cool.
So that started it off.
And that was where Bobby's Idle Hour is right now. It was my first studio.
Okay.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, it is wild.
Crazy.
When you're speaking of Cropper, I think it's funny that you're saying like this is one of the first moments at that age before you moved into production, and now I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it a little. We're gonna get there later, but you are now you just got to work on a project with Cropper.
Yes. We worked all last year, and it was I had actually produced with John Tiven a couple years ago another record in this where John had discovered a singer up from Connecticut, Roger Reel, who's just great. Just makes me smile. Just in the R&B, again, just the R&B thing. It's what they know. John Tiven is an incredible blues, very, very successful writer.
I love blues.
And yeah, he's on another planet there. But it was this record that I think the label really had liked the results of the first one and put us back. And we had Neoshi Jackson on the drums playing. John Tiven plays bass and horns. I play keys. And Roger singing and a Cropper. But then guess what? We got Billy Gibbons plays on the whole freaking record.
He's one of
and
my
I'm like,
guitarists.
that was... I'm a huge fan.
So good.
And just to be able to like start working with him.
That's amazing.
And
to be nominated for a Grammy for this project, which is awesome.
Yeah, so that was really a surprise, but I was really excited.
So cool. And it's Steve Cropper in the Midnight Hour?
And so they invited the band. We're an artist, the Midnight Hour Band.
Nice.
Or it's just called Steve Cropper and the Midnight Hour. So... I don't know if I'm the midnight part or the hour part.
You're in there somewhere.
I'm in there somewhere. Maybe I'm in the apostrophe. I don't know.
Hey, you're in there. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. So engineering, arranging, and doing and editing and doing all that stuff. And the musicians are insane. Look, like Neoshi holding it down back there. I mean, it's really nice. John, he's so musical. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. We have, and so...
I think we're gonna have to, at the end of this, take the cameras and the peoples down to your studio here in RCA Victor Studios.
Heck yeah.
You've got Studio C all to yourself, right? That's your baby. You've been in here like 9
So when I was
years?
working with early on with Juan and Steve, I actually a guy named Kyle Lenning, who was appointed president of Asylum Records at the time. He was looking for a production assistant. And somehow I heard that. It was like in September. And I went up and interviewed with him. So I'll tell the story on myself. Got in there because all I do is program and record one guy at a time. That's all I was doing, forever. So I played instruments myself, add guitars, vocals. So when I got in with Kyle and he's talking about the sessions and how they work, we got into a huge argument in an interview. I was like, why are you doing that? You don't know what's going on. I mean, I swear to God, I'm talking like this, like a total idiot. And he's looking at me, I swear to God, I can see him like, looking at me like, you little punk. And the son of a gun in December called me to hire me. And I still look back, I didn't know how wonderful that was at the time as far as, I think he just liked my little attitude or something. But he set me straight quite a bit, and I learned so much from him.
But you learned a lot.
But I got to work for him for a year, even got to work with artists like Shel Silverstein. I mean, that's insane.
That's awesome.
God bless Kyle for giving me an opportunity. But right about then, that's when Steve Cropper had purchased the buildings where the Orange Theory is, right across from Virgin. And he called me and said, hey, I want to put a studio in here. I don't know if I've ever swung a hammer in my life, but damn it took me a year and a half. I built that studio in some new studio.
Goodness.
And we did a whole lot of stuff over there. When we were losing that room, gosh, I've been at RCA now 9.5 years. So 10 years ago, looking for a place. And Aubrey had come in I didn't know Aubrey, but I guess he had known me.
For context, Aubrey Preston, who helped save the RCA
from demolition.
Victor from demolition.
Yes. And Michael Kerb came in as an investor, and another guy named Chuck Elkin, who I actually am good friends with since I was 6 years old, because he married Trisha Frist, and she and I are good friends. And
Nashville native, little big town.
Oh, it was so fun when Chuck came in one day, and I was trying to brag on the studio, thank you so much, and he had no interest whatsoever. He was just happy to be saving Nashville. It was so fun. But I was asked, and he said, Eddie, I want you to come on the phone, he said, Eddie, I've saved this building. I'm so excited. And I'd been in A tons working through the years and stuff. I want you to come to Studio C. And I was like, I'm trying to make it cool, like 1965 again. I just want cool people in here. I'm like, great, And I hung up the phone. What the hell is Studio C?
It's a little secret. A lot of people don't know about it.
But it's where y'all go. It's just, or later, just real quick. It was a studio that it was housed Chet Atkins' office when he was head of A&R. In '68, he was put to president of the whole country division here, and he built that studio, like a working studio. But it's really nice and tracking. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Didn't you ever know it was here? Because it had been, when it was operating a studio, it was just like anything else. It's just private. You had to know who's who to get in.
Definitely.
That's a great room.
Well, I do want to take him down, and we can tell him some more really cool stuff about C. But before we shift out of this space...
Oh, I'm comfortable.
I know. Hey, look, I'm glad that you like it here in X.
We
have really
Studio
cool
X.
people in this building.
No doubt.
So, because I do know that we have a lot of aspiring songwriters, artists, producers listening and watching this. If there's one golden nugget of advice, doesn't matter how cliche, as long as it's genuine, that you could give someone just finishing up at Belmont. They've chosen to follow this path. What at that point in time would have been, if you could go back and tell your younger self, which it all worked out, right? But what would be that golden nugget?
Well, I'm really lucky to get to work with I do a lot of artist development, right? And that's a term I'm now taking back, because everybody used to tell me, oh, that's done where you tell people to put hats on, what they dress like. I'm like, no, artist development is finding their voice, I just saw, coincidentally, Greg Barnhill yesterday. He was writing in my writer's room over there, and he and I are dear friends from forever. And we were just smiling about the stuff because we've known each other forever. And I was talking about a dear friend, one of my first mentors when I was 18, when I was at Belmont. He was like head of artist relations at BMI. But he was, one of his first pieces of advice that he gave that I share with all the kids. I call them kids. You could be 30 and just it's something that you're trying, something new. Outlast them. You just got to outlast them.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, you don't necessarily have to be better than that guy or that girl. You just got to outlast them.
Keep going.
Because I know some folks that have more talent in their pinky than I had in my entire body. But they ain't here. And that's what, it's nothing against them. But it's kind of like you just got to bust it. But all of a sudden, your skills and just what you have to do. You're people, you learn people. And
paying your dues.
Paying your dues. And next thing you know, you're just like, what's going on?
And even if you do get to the point, or when you do get to the point, if you stick with it, if you keep going, right, that you get nearly as talented as this guy here. Stay humble. Be willing to share the knowledge, and that also just still continues to go a long way, because I, being in this building, have been able to learn from Wood Newton amongst a couple other people that I've met, and you are one of the people that I look forward to really working with more and learning from, just because you do have such a good ear, you have a passion for it, you care, and again, you're willing to share that knowledge, which I think is, like Aubrey was saying, he wants this space to have that vibe, and I think you definitely
my lane is artist like production or song development, arts and song development. And with like some of the kids that I work with that you can tell are wanting to be songwriters or be, musicians and grow up, or just producers. You just sit back and learn and listen. I've had just this girl, Reese Burke, is insane. Mackenzie Clegg, they're like 18, 17.
Y'all go look these people up, okay?
Oh.
Look them up.
Right. And if you just shut up and listen, you're like, I love it when the kids come in, because they don't know anything, and they're just throwing this stuff out. They haven't been told that doesn't work yet, and you're sitting back going, oh gosh, that's insane. And so you learn to help them with their artistry and try to turn that up and fit it to 11, if you will, and then teach them about, that's the thing that if you're a producer and you're getting in there and you've hired the right folks, let them work back for you. Just kind of stay out of the way as much as you can. And then if there's a little time you need to ask them to turn left or right, That's another thing that I do. Gosh, I'm going all over the place.
No, I love this.
I love musicians.
I'm sure they love it too.
That you work with, and they're going, man, this is great. And you and the artists are sitting back, and it's like, well, it's really, really good.
But I need
is it great?
This.
And you're like, and they're like, nah, this is good. Fire them.
Yeah. You gotta
be
willing to work
that wants
with.
to turn left, for heaven's sakes, Yeah. And I'll take the supposedly lesser talented, but they're hungry. Then, okay, just
the driven.
Right. You got to work with folks that are really excited about the artist that they're working with to lift them. Again, it's not about me.
No, it's how are they going to contribute to the project and making that project a reality. And if it's more fight back and particular, no, I'm playing it this way. This is me talking about my studio musicians and my musician friends, right?
Does that sound like experience?
Sometimes, especially if it's, there's someone else's dime going on, you're brought in there, do what you're being paid to do and move on. If they want you to do something else, if they want you to recut it, do it. You are there in a professional context, so, present yourself as such. It's great to have fun, and it's great to be an artist, and it's great to be creative, and it's great if you hear something, throw it out there, because the idea could be brilliant. But if the artist and the producer are kind of like, meh, go ahead and get right back into your lane,
right. Oh, that brings me to, one of the things that we're very lucky here in Nashville is like in Hollywood, who can't act, right? Everyone can act. And so the director is like, okay, who's really going to get and feel this? In Nashville, who can't play guitar, right? But who's going to get it, the artist?
The vision.
Every guitar player, I guarantee that we probably work with the levels, can play the gig. But it's like the trick is whose hands are going to land there first without having to move. And that's what is fun about directing.
What's gonna support
then
the
that's
artist
why it's
the
so
most,
important for the artist, the producer. Okay, we've done our job casting, right? Let them work.
Yep.
And before that even happens, I'm a big, big, big proponent of pre-production. Huge.
The more you do on the front end, the less you have to do on the back end.
Because then we've got everything. If you got a song coming in, we've got everything from the key, we've got the tempos, we've got transitions are huge, and basically the form. And that's what's laid in front of the guys, right? That's when they can be musicians instead of
let them loose.
5 little producers.
Like, here's your playground.
And my favorite thing is when they're listening to artists, the drummer may be, hey guy, Eddie, hold on, check this out. And they've had a conversation with the bass player, and they're like pulling the tempo back, but the bass has got this. You can either go, oh my gosh, that's insane, that's way to go, or man, that's a great idea, but let's stick with the paper, right?
And from a producer standpoint, the way that you handle that is one reason you are such a joy to work with, and why people do love working with you, because you do know how to, get those points across while also never tearing down the artist or musician. I think every time I've popped in on you, you are one of the most just encouraging producers that I've gotten to see work, and I absolutely adore it. So
Who can't tell you this business is hard? Again, purge. Get somebody around you that's going to encourage and find the things and just
nurture it, uplift it, and work with. That's the biggest thing.
Oh, that's just hard. Like, what are you, a genius to say that?
Find people you can collaborate with.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I will sit here and talk to you forever. I love Eddie Gore. You guys should now also love Eddie Gore. We're gonna go down to Studio C real quick, if that's cool.
Yeah.
You guys are about to get to see some really, really interesting and unique history here in this building. So, let's go.
So, welcome to Studio C.
This is awesome.
The place that I had no idea existed. I was so excited when I walked in. Of course, it was empty, and I brought in all my other stuff from the studio just down the block. And I know, since we were coming, I pulled up a wonderful picture here. And this is a picture of Roy Orbison singing in that room. And back in the day, when Chet had built that, those two ISO rooms weren't there. So it's a little deeper. And this is actually a screenshot from a video RCA did for a little promo. And it's just, cool. I had to take a screenshot. I'm like, this is crazy. You can even see yourself, your reflection in the mirror.
That's
kind of
awesome.
Nuts. But this room, one of my favorite stories is my wife has been over at Universal South for years. And Shooter Jennings became a friend who's an artist over there. Well, several years ago, he was producing Brandy Carlisle with Dave, I guess, over at Studio A. And because I know Shooter, he came walking over here. He's like, Eddie, I was just a little boy and my daddy's over here recording them. And I'm like, what is this? I was 6 years old. My daddy's over here doing Honky Tonk Heroes. And he was telling me all this.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going, what? So there's all these little stories that come through. Like when he was doing that whole project and there was a lot that was done down here is what he was telling me. So I keep discovering things about this. And it's really kind of fun because, again, it's been a private room. And my favorite is I've met some of the ladies that were doing admin for RCA through the years just upstairs. And they were invited, came and sat down here, and they would give that little look left and right and go, you always wonder what was going on there.
Like,
and I'm like, I'm wondering too, what was going on down here?
This was the hidden studio, the secret studio.
It is great.
You've been in here 9.5 years.
Yeah, I know. It's insane.
What are some of your favorite projects, or just maybe a couple of the coolest projects you've gotten to work on out of here?
Well,
that you can share
what
with
was
us?
really neat is one of the craziest things is a few years ago they were doing a big fundraiser in England, called us to do something called Guitar Heroes, right? They were raising a lot of money for Buddy Holly, and we got to work with just the top of the tops because we were doing our main guitar players in America. They were doing theirs over, and that was pretty crazy. Some of the wonderful artists that were guitar players and stuff. That was really nice. I've got a client right now. Her name's Gloria Crampton, and she is the featured lead soprano for the New York Symphony. I mean, she's insane. I don't know how she found me, but she hired me like last year, and we've become really close. But she is, speaking of new, in a sense, here she is, one of the greatest sopranos in the world, but she's challenging herself because she's just fascinated with how Nashville works. Mm-hmm. It's just such a neat thing. She's just really, in a sense, humbling herself to come and learn. And all her stuff is written note for note for everybody. She sight reads like nothing, and that's their performances. Everything's written by the composer.
Symphonies, yeah.
Right? It was fun the other day. I mean,
and that's not really how it's done in Nashville.
She was over here talking to Drew on the phone, and I thought I'd go out for a little bit, be respectful. I came back. I was like, Drew, is that like a guitar player, or not a guitar player, but a friend of yours, a songwriter or something? She goes, oh, it's Andrew Lloyd Webber. Of course it was. Of course it was. That's just the way that is, you know. But somebody at that level is really learning, and we've been having more fun, you know, and I just adore her for it, but her stuff's turned out great. So yeah, so she's doing some stuff that's kind of Nashville style. Something's a little left field. A guy named Paul Orahovic is out of LA. He's been here for a couple of years. I met him. Keo Stroud, an incredible, one of my favorite drummers, introduced us. And he's been in the film business, behind the scene, doing screens and all. And he's written there. And he wanted to start trying his hand at country music. And he's literally moved here. But that guy's lyrics are insane.
That's awesome.
Like, it's so neat to meet these folks.
Yeah.
So he's stepping way out of his comfort zone and allowing me to kind of help guide.
That's
but
so
at the same
cool.
time, I don't want to, as a producer, talking about producers again, I don't want to like tell them to turn left or right. You know, I'm listening because I'm learning, and then maybe I could start guiding a little bit because I need the whole palette out there. And then we just start, you
know what you're working with.
Yeah.
And where they want to go.
So that's so awesome. Far left and right there. But at the end of the day, like in Nashville and with artists like just like yourself, if you strip away all, whether the crazy hi-hats or the big orchestras, if you strip it all away, there's a song. And that's where pre-production starts, is that we make sure that that song says everything, it means everything, it's what you want it. And in Nashville, because I was early on in my career when I was producing young artists, you know, I'd go to publishing companies and try to look for songs that they weren't necessarily writers. And they would, you could see them reach down to that bottom drawer for Eddie Gore and find these songs. However, being an arranger and using your ears, I had several number ones that came out of that.
You found the diamonds in the rough, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because they may not have had all the whistles and the bells, but God, that's a damn good song.
You heard what it needed.
Yes, absolutely.
Put that polish on it.
And so I love doing it.
You have talked about the ISO booths and everything in this just historical space. Can we walk them through the actual ISO booth?
Oh yeah, I can show what that
too, because that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we'll start over there. Is that cool? You want to walk that way?
Yeah, and then we'll come back this way before we get out of your hair.
Okay, you got it. All right, let's walk into the tracking room here.
This is where the musicians and singers come to.
That's right. This is where they hang out. Absolutely. Obviously, I got an in-house set of drums, and they pretty much sit there. I keep them tuned up all the time. We run bass direct mostly when we're doing multiple instruments, or we'll throw in the ISO room where we can block the sound coming to the drums. We'll throw isolates. We'll throw a bass amp in there. Or we've got acoustic that plays at the same time. Electric, we've got all the amps stuck in there. I hope y'all are enjoying my bachelor pad. Only thing keep it from being a bachelor pad is I'm married, but with my wife going, Eddie, can you straighten up?
It is actually so cozy in here, though.
Yeah.
And if you guys saw episode 3 with Too Hot for Leather, we did their music portion in here.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you guys have actually already been in here. Eddie Gore this is his studio. This is his place, and he let us come in here and do some live music. I'll link that as well if you guys want to hear how it sounds.
Those guys are great, by the way. Thanks. Yeah, I absolutely adored working with them.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. Great little band.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that a lot. Thanks for that, by the way.
No, thank you. And thank you again for bringing us into this space. And
you want to see where we write?
Yes, I would.
I got to show you a little pre-production stuff, right?
Pre-production.
Yeah, that's where it gets started before we come into here.
Okay.
So this, I think, was a little mastering room back in the day. But right now, I call it Steve Cropper's office because Steve and I moved over here together. And I've just got a lot of memorabilia from him from days at Stax Records. And
cool.
Also with the Neil Young tour with Booker T. And then he's got more awards and for songs written. It's insane. So I have a few special here. One what's his favorite picture? Oh, here it is. This is Cropper's favorite picture because he says it's one of the only ones with just him and Otis in the frame without all these other knuckleheads around.
That's funny.
So this is, however, now what we use it for mostly is writers come in and we just start writing charts and we just start going through songs. Got a nice little Rhodes that helps. I'll play guitar. And this is where all the real magic starts with defining a song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing that, putting the work in on
with
the front.
right here. This is the most important room.
Step one.
And the mics are always on. So right away we can run in, do a little test of some stuff, see how it's sounding and feeling, just in the headphones, if you will. I'll give one more little hint that I like to do. If I'm working with the artist and they're a songwriter or what have you, or even if we're doing outside and we have a 3-song session, that's their goal, we have to have 6 songs prepped. We have to have 6. And that's how it helps you still get down to let the artist be almost a really big part of that production or choosing and like what's the best of the best. And so let's see, you get to the final 3, then there's obviously 3 left and you start realizing, this one that we have left is literally my favorite songs, but it's just not going to fit. Doesn't mean we don't but all of a sudden you start editing yourself. Yeah. And that's why I do. And then the next session we'll have several more ready, right? And so that's how you do it. And you get to really be involved as an artist of your song selection. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of work. I call it fun, but let me tell you, it's all relative.
That's because you're passionate about what you do for work. So it is fun. It is fun. Well, thank you so much for sharing this
Thanks,
space.
Ariel.
I really appreciate it. You're going to be on some of our other shows that we're running out of Studio X Nash, so people will see you again. And Eddie Gore on social media, right?
Yeah, Eddie Gore. I've got eddiegore.com. I've got I'm on Instagram, Eddie Gore and Eddie Gore Productions. So the Facebooks and Instagrams are just all listed under that. It's not narcissism. It's just everybody knows who I am.
No, it makes it easy. That's branding. That's just being smart. So Eddie Gore everywhere. eddiegore.com. Y'all, he's a phenomenal producer. I've gotten to see him work live with a full live rock band, not even in a traditional recording setting, and he made magic happen. So you guys check him out if y'all need any work done.
That's really nice.
I vouch. He's a good guy. But I'm going to give you a hug.
Really?
Thanks for shooting the shit with us.
That's what I'm talking about.
It was a great time.